Yo, what up, everybody? It's P-Sci, and today I've got a updated deck profile. This is for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, so if you're not into that, then you're more than welcome to click away. But for those of you that stayed, this is updated from last time. We had the ban list at the start of February 2018, so here's my updated list that I took to locals, and I got sixth place out of 14. So yeah, let's start it. So first, we still run the triple whiptail. This banishes your opponent's monster when it battles it, when it's attached as XYZ material, so it's really good. And it's a quick effect. You can attach it to it from the field or your hand during either player's turn. Thoroughblade. This basically starts our combos. It gets one from your hand to the graveyard, so that all of your XYZ monsters are alive. Next we have a Zoodiac Ram. If it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one from grave, which is really good. It's used in conjunction with Barrage. And then one rat because it's at 1, and it's a Foolish Burial. This also gets you in your combos. I don't think it was in my profile last time, but I realized that I needed more zoo monsters, and it's a great normal summon to just dump a Ram, and then you can start your combos like that. Finally, for the monster lineup, hand traps are pretty good. I used this several times during the tournament, including one to stop an Electromite, which was really good, but I ended up losing that match. Next, for the spells, triple Barrage. This is amazing. It skated the ban list when Zoo was initially hit, but it's really good. You basically special summon one from your deck by destroying a card on the field, and sometimes destroying a card on your field can be beneficial, as you guys might know. Then Tenki, this searches any Zoo monster, so if you've got one Zoo monster and this, you could just search Thoroughblade and then pitch it to draw one, and then all your Zoo plays are active. Next, the more generic ones, Triple Desires. I play 49 in this build, so you're not really going to draw a Desires off of Desires as much as you would if you were playing in just 40. So I feel that you can play 3 in this, and I like to see it. It's a +1, so... Next, Triple Cosmic Cyclone in the main. There's just so many spells and traps in a format that that's not completely defined. This is really good against Trickstars and a lot of other decks, so I just run a triple, and banishing is way better than destroying because of so many effects that can happen when it's destroyed. Next, I run Triple Scapegoat. This card's amazing because it synergizes so well with Zoodiac, because you can use these to go into Mrs. Radiance and then power up your Borbo and just attack directly for game. It's really good. Next, I've got only 2 Shuffle Reborn. It is a combo extender. This is reminiscent of the format when Zoodiac was previously hit, when they just hit Norden, I believe. And people were using this as a combo extender. This is really good. If it ends up in your graveyard, you can shuffle a card on your field that is doing nothing. Sometimes I shuffle back Macrocosmos so I can continue my plays. Yeah, it just reborns a monster from your graveyard for free. It's like Monster Reborn, but just not as good. Next, for some of the one-ofs, this is also reminiscent of the previous Zoodiac format. There's a lot of destruction out there. My Body as a Shield protects it just negates anything spell speed 2 or lower that would have an effect that would destroy a monster. So this can stop Diagram, not that came up. It could stop any board wipe, basically. Anything that includes the effect of destroying a monster. You pay 1,500 and you get to keep your monsters, and you just negate that effect. Next, Raigeki in the main, I know, but when it does come up, it's pretty awesome, and if I know I'm going first, I actually side this out, so... But, I mean, destroying all your opponent's monsters, that's pretty dang good. Next, a Monster Reborn. This is a nice combo extender. This actually came up. My opponent had an out to my normal summon and my barrage, so I just Monster Reborn and continued on with my plays, and it was actually really good. So that's really awesome. And then Soul Charge because just bringing back a bunch of monsters and making a bunch of Mrs. Radiance is always good because they float. Next for the traps, now that Torrential Tribute is at 3, it's really good. Just a board wipe that you can use on your opponent's turn is just amazing. They're trying to set up their combos, go up into their giant Link monsters, and then you punish them by Torrential Tributing, and then you get Ram's effect and special summon a monster to protect yourself if they have a follow-up. Then we've got Triple Storming. I like Storming in this format because people are starting to use more Link monsters, and they can't be flipped face down with Quaking, which I think is probably the second best one. Storming puts them back into the extra deck, and I mean, the only thing this isn't good against is Pendulums, but then again, it's still good because if they've already used their Pendulum Summon, then they can't put all that stuff back on the board. And in addition to that, a lot of the stuff that they go into is either XYZ monsters or Link monsters. Next, some of the 2-of traps. I've got 2 Floodgate Trap Hole. This is pretty good against the Pendulum matchup. If they do Pen Summon like 4, you just flip this over, and then those are permanently face down, which is really nice. But really anything like, I mean, Chaos Max, like that's hilarious. You just put them face down defense position, they got 0 defense. I don't know, this card's just funny, but obviously you cite it out if you're going second, rather. Lost Wind has come in clutch in the past. It didn't really come in too clutch this game. It did come up against my Trickstar matchup, which I ended up losing that one, but it was nice to have their attack and actually do some damage to them while they were attacking. And then finally for my 2-of traps, I run 2 Zoodiac combo. This refills your deck with your zoo monsters. The zoo engine really took a hit now that we don't have Broadbull and Trident. So you're going to want as many zoos as you can get. And also, its other effect, its main effect, when it's on the field, is you can bring a monster from your deck and attach it to your zoo monster. So at attack declaration, you flip this over and attach a Thoroughblade to your monster, and it has 1,600 more attack than it did before, and usually that's enough to destroy your opponent's monster. And then finally for the 1-of traps, Solemn Warning. This is really good. I Solemn Warning to Candina in the Trickstar matchup, and it actually ended up winning me that duel, but unfortunately I lost the match. Solemn Judgment, this actually came up a couple times. Paying half your life points is expensive, but to stop anything, just to be able to have the ability to say no to literally any one thing that your opponent does is really powerful, and I'm glad that they brought this back, because I already had one before it was brought back. And finally, for the 49th card, I play a Macrocosmos in the main deck. This is just a spicy tech. If I draw it, then it's awesome. If I've got it face down turn 1, there's so many decks that just can't play around this, which is probably why it's at 1 in the TCG, even though they have 3 over there in the OCG. It's just really good for stopping things, and I've got things to destroy this, like I can Cosmic Cyclone it if I need to have access to my graveyard, or I can, use Shuffle Reborn to put it back in my deck, and if I need to, I'll have it in the deck for later. But it's really good at stopping things. Next, I'll go into the extra deck. You play Triple Chakanine because this one is like your Monster Reborn. It just brings one back from the graveyard. Next is Tiger Mortar. This one, you just bring it out and you trade one of your XYZ materials to give one from your graveyard to any one of your zoo monsters and beef its attack up, which is really good. Next is the filler. Hammer Kong, I think I've used the actual effect of Hammer Kong once to protect my other zoo monsters, but it doesn't come up because the ability to swarm the board is not as prevalent now that Rad is at 1 and that Link era is in effect, so it's not as good. But you definitely need the names. Like, I'll just throw that underneath Tiger Mortar when I'm going through my plays. Next is Borbo. This is actually MVP. I might even bump this up to 3 because the ability to just ignore your opponent's board and just attack directly with however much damage you have is phenomenal. Say it's mid-game and you normal summon a Thoroughblade, pitch something, overlay into your Hammer Kong, then overlay into Tiger Mortar, and attach a Whiptail to it, then overlay into Borbo after a Chakanine or something. I don't know. You can just quickly get this up to 4,000 plus I've seen in matches that I've had, and attack directly for 4,000. Like, that's insane. If they use the Judgment, then they're dead. Then I run one Bagooska. I'm probably going to take this out. I never went into it. You know, you don't really have 2 level 4s on board because the entire archetype is a 1-card XZs, so you don't really... I mean, it could come up, but I would much rather overlay into a Zoo Monster than to go into Bagooska. This has enough stun in the main deck in the form of trap cards, and I didn't see any Denko Sekkas or anything like that. But, I mean, I felt like this card was unnecessary, and I didn't even go into it. Next is Triple Mrs. Radiant, absolutely necessary. This card is just phenomenal, especially with Scapegoat. The synergy is amazing. Like, your ideal play is just like a Rat Pier, normal summon, do your combo, and then set Scapegoat. And then your next turn, you just have just so many resources to be able to go into Mrs. Radiant. I mean, you can have Triple Mrs. Radiant, and then they all have 2,900. The effect to retrieve from grave is hard once per turn, but it's still really good. And then finally, I took out Proxy Dragon for Underclock Taker, because in those instances where I want to put it in the extra monster zone, it will point down to the main monster zone, so I can still go into zoo plays instead of just having it stagnant there. I might take out the Bagooska for like a Decode Talker or something, because I feel like that might even be more useful than Bagooska. And then finally for the side actually came in handy. I sided more this last tournament than I've ever sided before, and I think that's good because I'm learning a little bit more on the art of siding. Like, I ended up siding this against Pendulum Magicians. Unfortunately, I only won one. If I get another one, I'll definitely throw it in there because this came in super clutch. It was, we were in time, and it was the third match. This was for 4th place or 6th place. I ended up losing that match overall, and getting 6th place instead of 4th. But I drew this, and this, which I had sided against because, I won game 2, so I knew my opponent would probably pick first. And I actually drew both of these, after he cut my deck. So my first play was to tribute over his Electromite, Heavy Metal Foes Electromite, his Naruto, and something else. I think an Astrograph Sorcerer for Raw Sphere mode. And then I tribute over his last monster with the Kaiju. I actually summoned this in defense position. Can you even do that? Street tributes. No summon to that side of the field. Okay, cannot attack. Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. So anyway, so I summoned this to my opponent's side of the field. End phase, it came back to my side of the field, and my opponent couldn't attack it, so he had to go into Ignister to spin it back to my deck, which is really funny. But it came in handy, and then I run the one Earth Kaiju because you can get it back off of Mrs. Radiant. Then another board wipe for going second. I did side this in a few times. I do have Raigeki in the main, but this is just an extra board wipe, and I don't quite feel that I have room for Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, because in that scenario I would be having to run even more Kaijus. I don't know. So I just run the one Dark Hole on the side. Then another thing that came off the ban list recently is Mind Control. So I run that at 3, steal my opponent's monsters, really good. Then the going first cards, Dimensional Fissure. This just goes along with Macrocosmos. Every monster just banished. One Mistake, stop people from drawing. I wish I had more of these because it's amazing. Rivalry Warlords and Gozen Match. This one basically limits the typing and the attributes of the monsters that can be on the field respectively. It's really good against a lot of different decks because this deck only uses Earth Beast Warriors. Then 2 Heavy Storm Dusters for heavy back row. You use that against Trickstar and Pendulum Magician, and then finally triple D barrier for Pendulum Magician. My opponent ended up using that against me to win the duel because I normal summoned Radpier, and then they activated D barrier to and called Xyz, and that ended up losing me my match against the Pendulum Magician player because I was 1,000 life points behind. I could have easily made a Borbo and attacked directly for game, but that D barrier really came in clutch for my opponent. But my first opponent was Magical Musketeers. I 2-0'd them. Second opponent was Trickstars. That was 2-1. They managed to beat me twice, and I only won the one game. Then my third opponent was Pure ABC with Cockadoodle-Doo. I 2-0'd them. That was awesome. I didn't think this deck could 2-0 ABC, but my opponent did only have 2 ABC Buster Dragons, and I ended up taking control of one with my Monster Reborn, which was amazing because I got to use ABC Buster Dragon for the first time. And then finally, my last opponent was the Pendulum Magician player, and that deck is just too powerful for this to handle. But I did take a game off of them, which was really nice. So no one 2-0'd me at that tournament, but I ended up in 6th place. So yeah, I hope you guys like the deck profile. Let me know what you think. I'm sure it can be improved more, but that's it for me for now. See ya.